just about Apsana, it seems to me that some of the media are being briefed that there's no grounds for this sort of misogyny, threatening behaviour from people in her constituency. It's like and nothing has been said at all by the leadership of the Labour Party in support of Apsana. Can you kind of give us the background to all this? And
yes, I can. And I'll start by saying what has been reported by the chief political correspondent of the Daily Mirror and Lee Harpin is a lie, basically. They've said that no complaints have been made. They have. A complaint was made as far back as the 28th of May, so it's an absolute lie. And they are being briefed by somebody in the Labour Party, so somebody in the Labour Party is misinforming. So just to give the background, you know, listening to the immigration and deportation stories is the best of humanity, isn't it? It's really uplifting. And what's happening to Apsana is the worst of humanity. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgraceful. So just remind yourselves, last year, Apsana was prosecuted for fraud. She had to go through a trial. It was very traumatic. And I went and sat through that trial and was appalled at what I heard. So what had happened was that her ex-husband, of whom she has said there was domestic abuse, sat on a committee that decided whether cases should be investigated of fraud. A complaint was made by a relative of her ex-husband alleging fraud. So in most cases, people probably know when there are issues about whether somebody should be prosecuted for something, it's the Crown Prosecution Service that decide whether there is merit in the case. And it used to be the police that did this, but it was recognised that, of course, there's a conflict of interest. So it was taken to a neutral body. But in some cases, local authorities and some other bodies have the power to prosecute. And in this case, it was Tower Hamlets Council that decided to prosecute. Now, anybody with any idea of fairness, natural justice, of the rules, procedural stuff, would have looked at that and thought, there's something wrong here. It's an ex-husband, you know, they've separated, this is wrong, you know, we need to look at this, deal with this carefully. But they didn't, they pushed ahead. And in court, when you heard the evidence, it was disgraceful that it had ever got to court. And of course, she was not found guilty, she was innocent. So you would expect there would be support from the party afterwards, but there's been nothing. Her ex-husband is a councillor, hadn't even been suspended until very late in the trial. And then he was unsuspended so that he could stand as a councillor again until there was uproar about that. He remained suspended, but not expelled from the party. So what's been happening in the, you know, that everybody's going through a kind of a process for trigger ballots to see whether you have to stand, whether the local people want you to stand again, whether they want other people involved. And what's been happening is that there are complaints about aggressive men standing outside the venues to vote. There's procedural errors going on, but three of the branches that have had the meetings have been physical meetings, but all the others have been online meetings. And the physical meetings have been overseen by people associated with her ex-husband. So there's no element of fairness. And there have been complaints to the party, but nothing has been done. Now, Apsana has now become very ill. She went to hospital and she's been signed off work. She's not able to participate. And if you think about what's happened in the past, you may look back to cases in 2019 of female MPs that were pregnant who argued that they shouldn't be put through the trigger process because it was too stressful for a pregnant woman. Now, pregnant women, as most feminists would say, you're not ill, you're pregnant. But the process was halted for those pregnant women. Now, Apsana's staff have asked for the process to be halted because she is unwell, very unwell, unable to participate, but they're just pushing ahead and they're still sending things to Apsana to deal with, even though she's off sick. So they are perpetuating, continuing this abuse. Now, okay, just in case there's any avoidance of doubt, if people are aware, most people will know what an IDVA is. It's an independent domestic violence advocate, and they're allocated to people who are victims of domestic abuse. Apsana has an IDVA, and the IDVA has contacted the Labour Party, and I'll just read what has been said. The IDVA has said that they believe what we're seeing in this current trigger process is a further extension of the abuse that she has already endured. They say that it is unacceptable for Apsana to be in a vulnerable position at this moment and from the ongoing hostility that she is facing, and it does not appear to be a safe environment. The safeguarding team at the Labour Party have also been made fully aware of what's going on and have done nothing about it. Now, you contrast the way that 2 white women were treated when they were pregnant, immediately that process was halted, and the way that Apsana is being treated. This is utterly disgraceful. We are seeing people involved in trying to break down a woman, and it should be stopped. Why isn't it being stopped? Why are the press being briefed wrongly as well? Is there any investigation? The staff have asked for an investigation, nothing's happened. And you know, when you think this is the chief political correspondent of the Daily Mirror used to have journalists such as John Pilger and Paul Foot, and now it's got somebody who joins in, without checking the facts, of course, joins in with the abuse of a woman. And let's think about all those other female Labour councillors, such as in Harrow and elsewhere, and MPs who profess so profoundly that they will tackle domestic abuse and violence against women, who are outraged at women in public life being attacked. You know, there was recently a programme on about it, wasn't it? Where is the outrage here for Apsana? We all need to be outraged. And what I would say, you know, in case there's any Labour Party officials on this programme, because they sometimes turn up just to watch what's going on, how do you look in the mirror in the morning? Keir Starmer, how do you look in the mirror and you think you're proud of what's going on? David Evans, how do you do this? How do you seriously treat anybody like this? So we have 2 classes of women, those that have to be protected, and then socialist women who can be treated in any which way they want. It's got to stop. It really has to stop. So sorry, it's a really terrible story.
No, I think it's not been put out there that people are saying we should defend Apsana, but we haven't actually heard the story as well as you've said it. So it's important.
There's also
a bit like Julian Assange, that we know the facts and stop hearing the smears.
So I'll just say that one of the people overseeing one of the physical meetings is somebody that Apsana has already got a complaint outstanding against in the party, because even after the trial, he had put out defamatory statements that she was guilty and briefing against her. So how can you have that? Any notion of fairness or due process? You could not have somebody overseeing a process where your job is at risk, and it's somebody you've got a complaint out against. I don't even understand how lawyers at the Labour Party can behave like this. They know it's wrong. We have lawyers and lawyers.
Yeah, well, look, thank you, Pamela. You yourself obviously have had to go through the same kind of bullying and intimidation and lack of support as well from those people who should support you. And solidarity to you as well as Apsana.
Thank you.